Started. Good afternoon and welcome to the Environment and Natural Resources Committee. We will get started today with introductions from the committee, beginning with Representative Bell on my right.
Good afternoon, Art Bell. I represent Yarmouth, House District 103.
Hello, Tammy Marshall Burgess, House District 77, Mexico, Dixville, Hopkins, Canton, Peru, and a sliver of a liver more.
And perhaps for the last time here, Bill Brigio, representing House District 60, east side of Augusta.
Dick Campbell, House District 19, Orrington, Holden, Eddington.
Vicky Dudera, House District 41, the towns of Camden and Rockport, and proud to serve as co-chair of the committee.
And I'm Denise Tepler, Senate Chair of the committee, and I think I'll list all my towns today because what the heck, it's the last day we're here. I represent Richmond, Bowdoin, Bowdenham, Topsom, West Bath, Bath, Phippsburg, Arousic, Georgetown, and Woolwich, as well as the town of Dresden in Lincoln County.
Wow. That's good memory.
Good afternoon. I'm Lori Osher. I represent District 25. That's a majority of Orono. It's the home of the University of Maine, and it's named after Chief Orono of the Penobscot Nation, and my pronouns are she, her.
I'm Mike Soboleski. I represent the Western Mountains, 73rd District, parts of Franklin, Oxford, and Somerset counties.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dan Enkeles. I represent House District 100, which is a central portion of the town of Brunswick.
Hi, my name is Stacy Brenner. I represent Senate District 30, which includes all of Gorham and most of Scarborough.
And with that, I'd also like to introduce our clerk who's sitting in the corner here, Ms. Ashley Malsbury, who's been a wonderful clerk this session. We've appreciated her. And our incredible analyst, Mr. Daniel Tartikoff, who is sitting at the center table. Today we have a series of language reviews. Pink means they're coming back to us from the revisor's office, which means they're essentially final, I believe, unless we change them.
Right. I brought everything I had for you today. So there's one bill that I don't have the final language yet. That's LD 2070, which is regarding landfills. And then there are two container redemption program related bills, 2036 and 2141, that I have language for you, but I don't have the fiscal information yet. So
Okay.
Mostly final.
All right. So I'm going to just step into the office to grab some lunch because I haven't had any. And but I will be listening to the reviews. So I'll let Rep. Dudera take over as chair at this point, and I'll be back.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you. And I think we'll just go in order that we've got here, Dan, if that works for you. So we're starting off with LD 474.
Sure. So LD 474 was a unanimous report. I think on all of these, I provided the vote sheet near the end. This is now titled an act to establish a stewardship program for primary and rechargeable batteries. I won't go in any real significant depth through the language here. There were some very minor technical changes made, mostly the addition of cross-reference definitions to other parts of statute where they made sense. The committee had authorized me to work with DEP staff in development of the proposal. So any of those changes were run by DEP just to make sure they weren't creating any unintended issues. So this language has not changed substantially. I would note, we talked about how there is an exclusion from the public records law of certain proprietary information that might be submitted to the department. That required the proposal to be submitted to the Judiciary Committee for a review of the proposed public records exception. That review occurred last week, and while we haven't gotten an official communication, the Judiciary Committee members present at the time unanimously approved the language without change. So this is set to be reported out following this review. We do have a fiscal note here for the bill. It indicates a minor other special revenue funds cost increase, and that any additional cost to DEP from the provisions of the bill are expected to be minor and can be absorbed within existing budgeted resources. So that is LD 474. I would note that for all of these bills, well, some of them still need a fiscal, so I'll bring those back. Any that are final like this one, I will time the process so that it wouldn't officially be reported out until later in this week. So you'd expect these on calendars next week. And so if you have a chance to review the language and you notice something that's a problem, let me know as soon as you can, and I probably still can hold it.
Okay, thanks. Any questions for Dan on that? Yes, Rep. Sobolewski.
Thank you, Representative. The fiscal note, you'll send that out in an email.
Well, that's a discussion
us
we
know.
probably should have today. Committees still have an opportunity to meet next week. So if the committee were to want, there could be another brief meeting to do any more language reviews, or we could conduct reviews via email, as we often do at the end of the session. And we should have a conversation today about the parameters of those electronic reviews, but you would see it one way or another.
So we'll do that at the end. Talk about that. Thank you.
So the next one is LD 1870. This is the majority report amendment. Minority ought not to pass. In the majority report amendment, this bill is now titled and resolved to assess the total cost to the state of greenhouse gas emissions. If you recall, this bill was reconsidered from a previous vote in the session to pare down the so-called climate superfund bill to a study and report back to assess the cost to the state of the emission of greenhouse gases for the covered period from January 1st, 1995 to December 31st, 2024. I don't believe there's been any substantive changes to the language on that report. There is an appropriations and allocation section that will be incorporated into the bill. This is consistent with what you were advised by the Department of Environmental Protection at the work session, that the anticipated one-time contracting cost of conducting the assessment would be approximately $600,000. This is a general fund cost, and so I would expect that this would be placed on the special appropriations table prior to final enactment.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Tartikoff on that? Nope. Okay, thank you. Go to the next one.
So this is LD 2036, I guess, if we're going in order. This is an act to clarify the approval process for and the operation of the commingling program for the management of beverage containers. The language is essentially final. I don't have the fiscal information yet on this, and you will see that it is written as essentially a proposed new amendment to what is the minority report. This was majority ought not to pass from Representative Campbell, and I can go through those changes before or after you discuss how you want to address this.
Rep. Brigio.
So having voted in the affirmative on this bill, I would move that we reconsider it for purposes of allowing the sponsor to speak to concerns that DEP has raised and he wants to clarify.
Do we have a second? Second. Okay, seconded by Rep. Sobolewski, and question from Senator Tepler.
Thank you. So, Representative Campbell, I just wanted to ask, you're seeking to amend your minority amendment. Okay.
Please.
Replace, amend, which one?
And is it more than a report in here, or just is the whole thing? Do we replace it?
So We did have the final language, and so this amendment is written as a markup. So you can see if you go through it, there are places where changes are indicated with pen, and I can describe those for you either before or after you vote to reconsider.
Okay, so we have a vote to reconsider. Is that done by show of hands? Is there any discussion on that first off? No, no discussion. Okay. Question from Senator Tupper.
Yes, think reconsideration is a courtesy that we extend to any of our members, generally speaking, if they make that request.
Yes, good point. Okay, so all those in favor of reconsideration, raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Who's got a question? Go ahead, Rep. Osher.
On line 31, it says by January 15th, 2025. It seems like that is a far past date, and I'm wondering why that's still in something that we're reviewing today.
So the plan was supposed to be submitted by January 15th, 2025, and there have been communications back and forth aimed at the development of a plan that meets the requirements of statute. I think is what the committee heard. Some of the changes to the plan requirements here that are proposed are made retroactive to January 1st, 2025. But you're correct that the law, even with these changes, would still say the plan had to be submitted by January 2025.
So I'm new in ENR, but it seems that wouldn't there be a way in which we would be making a goal that could be achieved? And that since we're doing language review, we might change the language?
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, Rep. Osher, this is a minority report. So we're doing this, we're just making a few changes in this for Rep. Campbell. So I think we can proceed. Yes, Senator Tupper.
Sure, it would be great if either Mr. Tartikoff or Rep. Campbell would let us know what the changes are and why they were made. That would be helpful.
Thank you, Representative, Senator, whoever. No, these were.
Whoever.
Whichever one I'm supposed to be addressing or thanking. These were some concerns that the DEP had about timing and other items. So rather than having them oppose, we adjusted it according to what they favored.
Okay, makes sense to me. You're creating your report and you're trying to do it as accurately as you can. I get it. All right. Do you want to explain the changes or would you like Mr. Tartikoff to? Okay.
So the changes are marked here, starting on page 2. There was significant discussion regarding a change in the date to the completion of the transition from beverage container sorting at redemption centers by brand to sorting by material type. The prior version pushed that October 1st, 2026 date out to April 1st, 2027. This change would strike all those changes and it would remain at October 1st, 2026 as it's currently in law. The second change on this page is a tweak to language for clarity, as I understand it, regarding the reporting of sales data and other information for cost apportionment purposes by initiators of deposit to the cooperative, or this language would allow that reporting to the respective commingling group. The next changes are on page 4. The prior version would have pushed out the timeline for plan implementation from January 15th of 2026 to June 15th. This strikes that change and keeps it as is currently in law at January 15th, 2026. And then below that strikes some proposed new language that cross-references another paragraph requiring a study to be conducted on refillable beverage container infrastructure. On the bottom of page 4, section 2 of the bill is removed, which also reflected that implementation date change from January to June of 2026. So this reverts to what's currently in law, January 2026. On page 6, this removes section 8 of the amendment, which would have also pushed to June 2026, the date by which the provisions of the law regulating unclaimed deposits would kick in. And so this keeps it as is in current law, January 2026. And a similar change is made on page 8 regarding other language in the unclaimed deposits provisions that would have pushed that January 2026 date out to June. That's removed here. And then finally on page 9, because those unclaimed provision changes were removed from the bill, there's no longer a need to make those changes retroactive. And so the retroactivity piece is adjusted just to apply the plan changes retroactive to January 1st, 2026. And there's some additional proposed changes made to the summary to incorporate those changes. Again, this is, we'd never had fiscal information on this. So since this is essentially a work session now, once it's revoted, it would have to go through the review process again to get fiscal information. I would just flag the language in section 12 of this amendment is essentially identical to a provision, section 4 in the majority report amendment to LD 2141. Something to just keep an eye out for. If they were both to become law, you would have a technical statutory conflict that would at some point need to be resolved. But I don't expect that would have any effect on department administration. There'd just be 2 duplicate provisions in law. So I can answer any questions anyone has about this proposed amendment. I'm not sure I can speak very directly to the need for the changes.
Yes, go ahead, Senator Shepler.
Thank you, Mr. Tartikoff. I am wondering if you could explain to me what this actually does that isn't in current law. That would be helpful.
So there's, as the committee heard, the department and the commingling cooperative are in discussions, negotiations. I'm not sure you want to characterize them regarding the commingling cooperative's plan. And there is a plan that's been written, and there's been back and forths between the cooperative and the department. The law in section 3107 3B sets out the parameters for the plan. And that's what the changes in section 1 of the amendment, which go to page 4, cover the plan requirements. And so all of these changes to the plan requirements, if approved and made retroactive, would apply to the plan that's currently under consideration. So it could affect the department's ability to approve what's currently in that plan or what's not in that plan. And I couldn't really speak to the specifics of that because that's a process I have thankfully not been involved with. The changes with the changes additionally proposed in here, there's some other tweaks made to the provisions of law that are not yet in effect, like regarding annual reporting by the cooperative, some of the other provisions about studying refillable container infrastructure, the changes to the unclaimed deposits law provision now with the additional changes that are made here would not change the status of the program plan not being implemented by January 15th. And so the department would have that authority to direct payment of unclaimed deposits into the Beverage Container Enforcement Fund. But the changes here would address another issue that had been expressed by the members of the cooperative regarding the need to segregate their unclaimed deposit funds and keep them in separate accounts. So those changes would still be included here. And then there are also some other changes here, and I referred to one of them also being included in LD 2141, the majority report, that would address sales data reporting and other data reporting to the department and to the cooperative that was identified as a barrier to plan development and implementation.
So, my follow-up question is, so most of what I hear you saying, other than it includes the enforcement ability on the department's part that another bill we passed also includes, is that it puts in statute what the plan that's currently being negotiated looks like.
I can't answer that for certain. That was speculation, I suppose, on my part. There's been a number of iterations of it and I haven't reviewed them all.
Okay. I think I might need the commissioner to answer that, but, or Ms. Hopkins, Director Hopkins, I don't know. Okay, so do you mind or do you want to get your question?
Yeah, I just have a quick question for Dan. So the summary that we have here is no longer accurate, correct?
Well, so
It's got a few changes to it where it says delete, delete, delete.
it would
but
be
it's-
accurate, I hope, with those deletions.
Oh, it would be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
If you can believe it, when we revise bills and amendments, the preference is actually to hand mark them up and send them for processing in the year 2026.
Okay, I just wanted to know if the summary was accurate. Thank you.
Okay, then. Okay, and Director Hopkins.
Good afternoon, Carla Hopkins, Director of the Division of Materials Management at the DEP.
So, Director, does this bill put into statute the shape that plans that you're currently negotiating must take?
So it was my understanding that the committee voted ought not to pass on this bill, and then this was to change the minority report, correct?
Yes.
That
Okay.
is correct.
Okay, so yes, we are working with MBRG, the cooperative, to finish the order and plan that's required. Nothing that gets changed in statute would preclude us from updating that plan if it's appropriate based on the outcome of LD 2036. That we would consider that plan as a living document and that it could be updated as required if statute or rule changes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Rep. Campbell.
Thank you. So as it was presented at first, you had some concerns about the bill. With this amendment, have those concerns been satisfied?
I would say yes. I think we originally testified neither for nor against.
No.
We don't, everything in this minority report that's been changed, we are okay with. If it's the will of the legislature to change these things, we will implement it that way. We don't have any issues with it. And we actually do support the change to in section 13, which is the 38 MRS 3119, that sales data reporting requirement, and that would enhance our ability to get that sales data that everyone would like to have.
So even though you were neither for nor against, you had some concerns.
We did with the change in the dates.
Yeah.
Correct. And those have been satisfied by reverting to the original language.
Okay. So I guess go ahead. Just a little history on this. When the redemption industry began down the road of addressing what we worked so hard on the last cycle. These are issues that came up that either couldn't be satisfied, or it would be more helpful if these were changed. And, you know, in my work here, I have a lot of respect for the department and the commissioner. So that affects how I vote. I usually go with the department. So if with these changes, is there any consideration for us changing some of our votes from the majority to minority?
Senator Tepler.
I can't answer your question, Representative Campbell, yet, but I'd like to ask another question of Director Hopkins. So I guess, let's say we were to decide we wanted to pass this minority report. Does this give you more or less flexibility in implementing your goals with the commingling groups?
I would say it doesn't really impact our end of things. I think it more impacts industry and the way they would like things to be in the plan. So we can implement it either way. We can implement the statute either way.
And when you say it impacts industry, can you explain what you mean by that?
I cannot. I think that would be better answered by someone from industry rather than, I mean, I know what their goals are, I think, but I don't think it's appropriate for me to articulate that.
Okay.
Senator Brenner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Hopkins. If we don't pass 2036 into law as suggested, amended as suggested today, do you think you'll still be able to run a functional program?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, oh, go ahead, Rep. Campbell.
More of a comment. Senator, do you still have an interest in someone from the industry side to answer any questions?
Not really. I mean, Director Hopkins indicated that there would be an impact on industry from the provisions in this, but I think since I'm a little concerned still about this because it was originally written by industry. So I remain somewhat concerned that it handcuffs the departments in some ways since it was written by industry. That's my concern.
Did we get an answer from that for that?
Well, these weren't changes sought by the department. These are changes that we don't oppose if that's the will of the committee.
I understand. Thank you, Director Hopkins.
Okay, so we voted to reconsider. We're in reconsideration. And yes, Senator Brenner.
I'd like to make a motion ought not to pass.
Do I have a second on that? Okay, seconded by Rep. Osher. Any discussion? Okay, we're ready for the vote then.
If I could make one more comment, Madam Chair, my comment would just be, I do appreciate the sponsors' efforts to align the bill more closely with the department's requests. Thank you.
All right, the motion is ought not to pass for 2036. Representative Bell, what is your vote?
Yes.
Representative Bell, yes. Representative Schmersel Burgess.
No.
Representative Schmersel Burgess, no. Representative Campbell.
No.
Representative Campbell, no. Representative Dodera.
Yes.
Representative Dodera, yes. Senator Tepler.
Yes.
Senator Tepler, Yes. Representative Osher?
Yes.
Representative Osher, yes. Representative Sobolewski?
No.
Representative Sobolewski, no. Representative Angeles?
Yes.
Representative Angeles, yes. Senator Brenner?
Yes.
Senator Brenner, yes. 6 in favor, 3 opposed. So the motion passes. What is the minority report? Ought to pass as amended.
Thank you. Senator Brenner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you clarify when members who aren't present can vote until for this motion?
But I think it's still 12 o'clock, 2 business days later.
I just asked about 30 minutes, but like, as far as I know, yes. Business days.
There has not been a notification of the shortening of the timeline, although occasionally that does happen towards the end of session, but we haven't received any notification of that at this point.
Rep. Campbell, yes.
Thank you, Representative. So just in general, what is the penalty if the industry can't accomplish on time?
All the unclaimed deposits go to the state.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
there's provisions that, as Senator Brenner said, there are provisions in the unclaimed deposits law that require, that authorize the department to direct them to transfer the unclaimed deposits to the department for deposit into the Beverage Container Enforcement Fund. And there's also a specific date by which, if a plan isn't implemented, then technically any initiator that's not participating in a plan, and there wouldn't be one, would be in violation of the beverage container laws.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we're all set on that one. Now we're going to move to 2141.
So LD 2141, this is the majority report, ought to pass as amended, minority ought not to pass. The title of the majority report is an act to further direct the use of unclaimed beverage container deposits and to make other changes to the beverage container redemption laws. I would say there are no substantive or really even technical changes to the language that was previously reviewed, but the language is final, except for the fiscal note. And I wasn't sure if this was going to be the last time the committee met, so it's been distributed. It's now a public document that I can share with anyone who requests a copy. Once we have the fiscal information, I would obviously share that.
Okay, do we have any questions on this one? 2141. Nope. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next one.
The next one is LD 2187. This was a committee bill, an act to update certain water quality standards and to reclassify certain waters of the state. This was voted majority ought to pass and minority ought to pass as amended. So the first piece of this packet is the majority report. The fiscal office determined that there was only a minor cost increase to the general fund and that any additional cost to DEP to adopt the changes in the bill are expected to be minor and can be absorbed within existing budgeted resources. Accordingly, a fiscal note is not required. And so the majority report can remain at ought to pass. And just for reference, because the votes did not fall on party lines, the voting sheet is at the back of the packet. The minority report, which is ought to pass as amended, accepted the bill and added a change in the upgrade to the portion of the Androscoggin River from Gulf Island Pond Dam in Auburn to Rummo Dam in Lisbon Falls from a Class C to a Class B, with the caveat that that particular upgrade change would not take effect. At the time of the vote, it was expressed as December 31st, 2026. I changed that to January 1st, 2027. Typically, when there's a future repeal of a law, we set it at the end of a year, and a future enactment is set at the beginning of a year. I'm guessing that date, the one day, doesn't make much of a change. There's a fiscal note for this one, minor costs, similar to the majority report. So this will get attached to the minority report amendment as well.
Okay, any questions on 2187, the language for that? No? Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the next one, which is 2210.
2210 was another committee bill, an act to clarify Board of Environmental Protection procedures regarding appeals of licensing or permitting decisions of the Commissioner of Environmental Protection. You may recall that there was a markup provided by the board's executive analyst at the hearing for a couple of minor language changes to the proposal. This amendment is, I guess you could call it a narrative amendment, so it doesn't actually show those changes, but describes how the changes are to be made. I can confirm, without going into the details here, because it's not the easiest to read, that they are consistent with what the committee's vote was previously, to make that minor technical change. The fiscal note indicates that there's a minor other special revenue funds savings, and that the provisions may result in minor savings to the board within the DEP due to reductions in administrative costs and staff time. And that was a unanimous report, ought to pass as amended.
Do we have any questions on the language review for 2210?
Do we need my vote on any of these?
No. Okay, no questions. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
And then the final one is LD 2227, an act to update financial assurance requirements for certain solid waste facilities. This was another committee bill on the recommendation of the department. And if you recall the hearing, or prior to the hearing, the department provided some additional proposed changes to clarify the financial assurance mechanisms that might be required under
Right.
this provision of law. And to make some other changes regarding review of financial assurance mechanisms. I was authorized to work with the department on the language, and I did make a couple tweaks based on input received from the revisor's office, and ran that by the department, and I believe they're comfortable with this language as it is presented in this packet. There is a fiscal note indicating a minor cost increase in other special revenue funds, noting that any additional costs to DEP from the provisions of the bill are expected to be minor and can be absorbed within existing budgeted resources. That is the last one that I have for you today.
Okay, any questions on this one from the committee? No? Okay, thanks. We did them. Yep.
We did.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're all set with that with language review then. I want to just let people know that when I was out running errands before we came back here, I ran into our former clerk, Mary Ann.
Oh, how
and got to
nice.
say hi to her, and she wanted me to tell the committee hello, and that she misses everybody. So,
We miss her.
yes, go ahead,
Um,
Senator Tepler.
Yes. So we have 3 bills left with final language review. Is that correct, Mr. Tartikoff?
So you've reviewed the final language now on 2036 and 2141, 2036 in a markup format. We didn't have fiscals on those. I have not yet had a chance to finalize the language or fiscal information for 2070. So there's 3 more bills that are not yet ready to leave.
Okay. And the deadline is next Friday?
That's correct. So I believe committees still have the opportunity with permission from the presiding officers to meet next week to conduct committee business.
Would the committee like to meet in person next week, or are these things we think we can handle through email?
I prefer email.
I sent several of you my comments on this one, so on 2070. So I'm hoping that I at least get a chance to have a discussion. So perhaps we could do it by Zoom. Is it possible?
No, that is not possible. It's either in person or Mr. Tartikoff sends us the information. But if you want to schedule a meeting for next week on either Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday afternoon, we have to ask permission, but I suspect we would get it to do a final review of the 3 remaining bills plus any fiscal information that comes through between now and then. So I've heard two people's opinions. Can I hear from others about how they would like to finish this?
Well, I mean, I feel I'm okay to do it via email, but if there is a substantive discussion that needs to happen, I don't know, I think we're pretty much wrapping up. I'm kind of looking to see what anybody else thinks. What does our Republican lead think here? Rep Campbell.
Well, I'm already having withdrawals, so I think I'd like to come back into the room one more time.
We could do Tuesday. Let's see what Tuesday looks like. Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yeah,
Shoot,
any
Tuesday.
day but Thursday for me.
Same.
Okay, let's shoot for Tuesday.
Okay, so can we ask you to ask permission for the committee to meet on Tuesday following sessions, which I guess we would set for 1:00, although I think chances of meeting actually at 1:00 are probably slim.
Aspirational.
Um,
Let's do 1:00.
all right, all right, we'll do.
Sure, I can do
yes.
that.
Okay.
I think your assumption that there's no reason to believe it wouldn't be approved is accurate, but in the event the committee were to have to do any reviews electronically, it would be good to have a very brief discussion about what your expectations are about any distribution of amendment language to non-committee members. So just as a reminder, the legislative confidentiality policy governs whether or not a document prepared for a committee can be distributed to the public, and generally the requirement is the document is considered confidential and not public until it's distributed at a public meeting of the committee. So a distribution by email has for many years not been considered a public distribution, and so the documents remain confidential. And so it's sort of done on a committee by committee basis as to whether or not anything reviewed electronically is more broadly distributed to or made available to any non-committee members.
I think this is probably going to be moot because I think we'll get the permission and we can meet on Tuesday. So
You would like us to decide now, though, what our procedure will be if we don't get permission?
Throwing it out there, I mean, if the committee were not to decide, if we're not able to meet again, I think that decision would fall to the chairs. And we could just
Well.
defer to that if that's the committee's
I think-
desire.
I think that's fine. And we'll do something by email that may involve more discussion than the normal email review because of some of the concerns that Representative Osher has brought forward. Yes.
To be clear, electronic review cannot involve committee discussion without violating the Freedom of Access Act. So when you shift to electronic review of proposals, it can only involve passing of information to the analyst, which could then be shared with the chairs if that's the way we set it up. But if the committee were to engage in a substantive discussion on legislation over email, it could potentially violate the Freedom of Access Act. And so if there's anything that the committee may want to do substantively with a bill, it's best to do that in a public committee setting, or you're stuck dealing with it in a floor amendment.
Gotcha. Yes, Rep. Campbell.
Thank you, Senator. I guess with that, we do better work together than apart. So it
Agreed.
would be nice. And what are we, not an hour? On language review here, 10-minute meeting wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, no, I agree. If we set it for 1, it may not happen till 2, depending on how quickly we're going through material in our chambers. But I think that's okay. And we're warning our audience at this point that we may be on serious legislative time. And Yes, lunch, yes. And we would like to talk about a legislative lunch for this committee, including our analyst and our clerk. And I understand that the presiding officers are discussing appropriate times for that. So is everybody good with the idea of scheduling a lunch? Does anybody have a thought about where we might want to do that?
Yes, the Corey Taproom has been able to accommodate groups like this. Oh, I'm sorry, for the benefit of the world, and if the Corey Taproom is listening, maybe I'll get a free beer at some point. But they have been good at accommodating groups. And maybe I shouldn't be doing this, right? I should be pushing over an Augusta venue, now that I think about it.
I think for an Augusta venue, it should be your house.
Well, that's a possibility too. Let me call home and find out whether I can come home this afternoon.
Well, do let us know if we are going to be holding our our committee picnic at your house, and we could always do it as a potluck sort of thing.
That would actually be more fun.
I think it would too.
We'll see.
Okay. Okay. Yes, yes. I fully understand that spousal approval is totally necessary for that sort of thing. And spouses have final right of,
I love you all, but I love her more.
yes, very nice. So, okay, so Representative Campbell, did you want to say something else? No, okay. All right, so are we adjourned? Is there anything else? Nope. Okay, so till next Tuesday, hopefully. Because that will just make things easier. And everybody have a good day tomorrow, and then we'll see each other here next week.
Thank you.
Permits.
Back